Hello, I'd like to convene the Single Family Design Board for February 14th, 2022. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I will go ahead and begin roll call. Chair Miller.
Here.
Vice Chair Kalas.
Here.
Board Member Arakalian.
Here.
Board Member Brentlinger.
Here.
Board Member Klein.
Here.
And Board Member Motisha.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
All right, great. Going to general business for public comment. Any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda for a public discussion.
I have an item that I'd like to bring if no one else is there. This week at City Council, my understanding is that there will be a discussion item on the consent calendar about the duration of time that public speakers have to speak at City Council. So if anybody is interested in that, I would encourage them to take a look at City Council's website and write a letter or call into that meeting.
Okay. To increase it or decrease it, or is it just a discussion, do you know?
My understanding is it's to decrease the time from 3 minutes to 2 minutes.
Okay. All right. Ms. Gokinda, did we have anyone else who wanted to speak? Or Pilar, sorry. I'm not sure who anymore.
Thank you, Chair Miller. I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive written correspondence from April Hilliard for an item not on today's agenda. It was regarding a prior project that was heard by the board for 2121 Las Tunas Road.
All right, thank you. All right, let's, I believe that's it for public comment. Is that correct?
I do not see any hands raised. Ms. Fennessy, do you see anyone additional that's reaching out for public comment on item not on today's agenda?
Thank you. There are no hands raised in the attendees list, so I'll hand it back to the board.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's moving on to item B, the approval of the minutes for Single Family Design Board for January 31st, 2022. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, let's go through the items, please. Item 1, 116 Santa Cruz Boulevard. Item 2, 118 Remedo Road. Item 3, 2121 Las Tunas Road. Item 4, 742 Juanita Road. Item 5, 1625 Shoreline Drive. All right, hearing no changes or comments, may I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I will start the roll call vote. Board Member Arakalian.
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger.
Yes.
Board Member Klein.
Yes.
Board Member Motisha.
Yes.
Vice Chair Kalas.
Yes.
And Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar for January 24th. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Ms. Pilar, if you can go through the items, please. Or Ms. Plummer.
Thank you, Chair Miller. Item A received project design approval and final approval. And you can go to item B, Ms. Fennessy. Item B, 1850 Gibraltar Road received final approval as requested. Next item,
I think that's it.
or that's it. Okay.
And who are the reviewers?
And the reviewers were, if you'd go to the top page, please.
Oh, it's me and Board Member Klein. All right, may I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll go ahead and start roll call. Board Member Arakelian,
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kalas,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar for February 7th. May I have a motion for approval, please?
So
I'll make-
moved.
All right, thank you. And a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Ms. Plummer, if we can go through the items, please.
Thank you, Chair Miller. The reviewers were Board Member Kalas and Board Member Klein. Item A, 1135 Harbor Hills Lane received final approval. Item B, it's a little slow on my end. 116 Santa Cruz Boulevard received final approval. Item C, 52 Via Alicia was continued indefinitely to another consent date
I have a
with
comment on,
comments.
I have a
Go ahead.
comment on the minutes for this item, Ms. Plummer.
Okay,
In the second comment that is memorialized, I believe the word resident says in the last statement in item 2 should be residence.
thank you.
Guidelines
We
and the
can make
lack of
that change.
compatibility and the architectural style of the residence.
Thank you. Yes, so we can make that change.
Thank you.
And item D, 3236 Laurel Canyon Road received project design approval and final approval. And that's all the items on that agenda.
All right, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll start the roll call. Board Member Arakelian,
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kalas,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to today's consent, February 24th, 2022. May I have a motion for approval, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. We can go through the items, please.
Thank you, Chair Miller. The reviewers today were Board Member Kalas and Board Member Klein. Item A, 812 De La Guerra Street was withdrawn at the applicant's request, so this item was not heard. Item B, 2515 Merle Road received project design approval and final approval with conditions. Item C, .518 Peregrina Road was postponed indefinitely at the applicant's request. And then item D, 469 Scenic Drive received both project design and final approval.
All right, thank you. Hearing no comments or changes, may I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. We'll start the roll call vote. Board Member Ara Kellyan,
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kalas,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants or continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items and appeals. Ms. Plummer, did we have any of those? My mind went blank, sorry.
Chair Miller, thank you, Chair Miller. I do not have any announcements at this time.
Okay, thank you. And I do not believe we have subcommittee reports at this time either.
Ryan, may I interrupt right here for a second? And G,
Sure, of course.
I'm going to
Yes.
excuse myself. Maybe this is where I put this announcement. I need to excuse myself at 6 o'clock today, but I think since we are have item 5 not here, we may make it through. So I will
Okay,
excuse myself, but if not, I will be off at 6 o'clock.
so, oh, that's why it's not highlighted. I didn't see that postponed. Got it. Thank you. Glad you brought that up. Thank you, Mr. Motisha.
And
Okay, very
Mr.
good.
Chair, Ellen Kokenda, I just want
Yeah.
to make an announcement, just in case we have
Yes.
anybody from the public who's watching. I know that you'll be postponing item 5 later, but this is just an announcement that 1460 La Cima Road, that was requesting project design approval and final approval, has been postponed at the applicant's request to a date certain of March 14th. So if any members of the public are watching, just know that you can tune back in on March 14th when it'll be back before you all.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, with that, it's 3:15. We could move on to, I believe, our first schedule item, 648 Ricardo Avenue. This is a continued item for concept review. Proposal for substantial redevelopment of an existing single unit residence, including a 480 square foot addition to the 1,062 square foot non-conforming residence, a 48 square foot reduction to the 474 square foot two-car garage, and an interior remodel. Project includes demolition and reconstruction of all exterior walls, an increase in plate heights, new retaining walls, a new low profile wood deck, and associated site and landscape improvements. Staff hearing officer review and approval is required to allow reconstruction of exterior walls within the 30-foot front setback.
Chair Miller, I just want to remind everyone that I am stepping down from this item.
All right, thank you.
Actually, Board Member Klein, I think we need you to go through the sole proprietor information as it pertains to this project. Ms. Raydell, if you can go to page 25 of the PowerPoint.
Is she recusing herself? Does she still have to do that?
I believe she does, and that was done in the last review of this item when it was heard on August 16th.
Okay.
So Board Member Klein, if you could just read that into the record. Sure. The State Fair Political Practices Act Regulation 18702.4 states that an official may appear before a design or architectural review committee of which he or she is a member to present, explain architectural or engineering drawings which the official has prepared for a client. Myself, Katie Klein, is a sole practitioner and is using this exception, understanding certain limits regarding advocating on behalf of their client.
Thank you.
There's more. Does she need to read this part 2?
Oh, yes, in part 2.
The City Attorney's Office has determined that sole proprietors are allowed to prepare professional documents and make project presentations before a board they serve on based on an exception to the Political Reform Act and Fair Political Practices Commission rulings. The limitation is that they are not to unduly influence their fellow board members on a decision by advocating for their clients. The exception allows board members to continue practicing their profession in the city while volunteering on a board.
Okay.
And then I just have some brief staff comments before the applicant makes their presentation.
Okay,
And
all right.
Natalie Phillips should be the applicant. So I'll let you go through the project description first, and then I'll have some comments.
Okay. No final appealable action will take place at this hearing. Neighborhood preservation findings and hillside design district and slope lot findings will be required to be made at project design approval. The project was last reviewed August 16th, 2021. So do you want, can we have Vice Chair Colas go through the minutes, or do you want to speak first, Ms. Plummer?
I think we can get the minutes on the screen, and then I'll make my comments right after those are read into the record.
Okay. So let's see, the last action that was taken on this, the motion was continued to the staff hearing officer for return to the full board with the following comments. The board is in support of the project. The roof line is a great improvement over the prior iteration reviewed by the board. The project as proposed is compatible in size, bulk, and scale with the neighborhood. There are no negative effects of privacy for the immediate neighbors. The applicant shall return to the full board after the SHO hearing or staff hearing officer hearing to review in greater detail the proposed landscaping, and the landscape plan shall be completed. When the project returns to the full board, the board would like to see final details, cut sheets for proposed exterior lighting. The board recommends that the applicant confer with project owners and consider whether exterior shading devices are needed on the south elevation. The applicant shall consider a slightly lighter version of exterior siding as part of their final design. The motion was made by myself, seconded by Mr. Motisha. It carried 3-1 with no dissenting. Oh, I'm sorry. 3-1, Arakelian opposed, Klein was recused, and Ziegler was absent. The motion carried.
Thank you. And my comments are, so Stephanie Swanson is the case planner for this project. She is in attendance, but did not have any particular comments at the start of the item. Although this project was continued to the staff hearing officer, there were some changes since the last conceptual review of the project. So they're coming back for feedback on those design changes, and specifically feedback on aesthetic supportability of the setback modification that's being requested, and the related substantial conformance, substantial redevelopment of the project. And I'll be here throughout the meeting if you have any questions, or if you have any questions for Ms. Swanson, she's also here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a representative for this project?
And it should be Miss Natalie. Let's see if she's.
There we go. Can you see me?
Yes, I see you.
Okay.
Yeah, if you'd like to go through the project in particular, anything primarily focusing on the minutes from the last meeting, that'd be great.
Okay. If we wouldn't mind going to slide number 3 to start us out. So we have a visual. Okay, thank you. Hi, board members. My name is Natalie Phillips. I'm with CSA Architects. And last time we saw this project, it got positive responses from you. And we are actually here on a very minor revision. We were expected to go to the staff hearing officer with your positive comments with the design that we had. And in doing so, and in doing preparing some of our planning information, we found that we needed to provide a compliant garage that's 20 by 20 in width in the interior. And to do so, we needed to have an addition to our garage. So why we are here today is to have you review and hopefully support this minor garage addition, because this minor garage addition happens to also be in the front yard setback. So you can see on this site plan, the top left corner of our project, that is the garage. And it is approximately 3 feet into the front yard setback. There's a very small little sliver on the left side of the garage that is addition, and that is better seen right here. That is actually only a 12-inch addition. That's 1 foot, only 1 foot. And the whole square footage of that addition in the front yard setback required for our garage is 3 square feet. So if you could also go to the floor plan, which is slide 7. Here you can see in red, this is the existing footprint of the house. And the additions that we're making and that you saw in the last presentation are at the rear of the house. And now this additional addition that we have to make, again, only 1 foot wide at the right side of the garage. A small portion of that addition is in the front yard setback. And you can see the very bottom right corner of the garage. That's the area that we're basically here for today. Yes. And if you could please go to slide 9. This is the front and side elevation. Nothing about this project has changed since the last time we showed you, except for the 12 inches on the right side of the garage. That is it. We intend to address all of the items in the motion, such as the landscaping plans being completed, all the additional details, and so forth. We plan to address all of that at our next SFDB meeting, but our intent is to go to the staff hearing officer to make sure that we can get these modifications that we're requesting so that we can have the design as proposed. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what we're here for. We're asking for you to continue the project to show. So if you have any questions, I'm here.
All right, thank you very much. Did we get any public comment? Ms. Plummer?
If you are attending the meeting and you'd like to make a public comment on this specific item, you can click the raise your hand to comment. And using the directions on the screen before you. Let's see, I do not see any hands raised at this time. Ms. Fennessy, did we receive any written correspondence on this item?
Thank you. We did not receive any written correspondence for this item. And I currently do not see any more hands raised, so I'll hand it back to the board.
All right, thank you. Bringing it back to the board for questions. Vice Chair Kalas, do you have any questions, please?
I have no questions.
All right, thank you. Board Member Arakalian, do you have any questions, please?
No question.
Thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any questions?
No questions from me. Thank you.
All right. Board Member Klein, any questions, please? Oh, she can't. She's recusing herself. Okay. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay. I guess my quick question is, I guess in the minutes it said something about a full landscape plan. So you're saying you haven't done that yet because you want to get positive comments for the modification? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All righty then. Moving it back to the board for comments. Vice Chair Kalas, do you have any comments, please?
I can support this request for the additional mod based on the fact that the addition is consistent with the existing front of the house. And I don't think it causes any detriment to the neighborhood. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you. Board Member Arakalian, do you have comments, please?
I do. I believe the setback modifications proposed are aesthetically appropriate and similar to my comments from the last meeting, I'm still not in support of the proposed siding color in accordance to our SFR guidelines. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
I have one declaration first, which is
Yes.
I did review the minutes and viewed the video from the last meeting that dealt with this submission. So just wanted to put that in there for the record and then say that I would accept this modification as really not changing the overall aesthetic of the home. And that's my comment.
All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
I support this project. That's my only comment.
Okay, thank you very much. With that being said, I have no comments at this time either. So if someone would like to entertain a motion and include in the motion the board supporting or not supporting the modification.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
The board can support the 3 square foot addition in the front yard setback associated with the expansion of the garage because it is consistent with the existing front line of the residence and does not create any detriment to the neighboring parcel on the west. That's my motion.
All right, thank you. Before I ask for a second, Ms. Plummer, there used to be a script we were supposed to read. Is that applicable now?
Thank you, Chair Miller. And actually, thanks for bringing that up. Ms. Rydell, if you can go to page 27 of the PowerPoint. And I was going to request if Board Member Colas, if you can include some comments about the aesthetic appropriateness of the modification being requested and consistency with the single family design guidelines.
I believe I've already spoken to the aesthetic issues, which is that this allows the addition to be consistent with the front line of the residence. In terms of...
Yeah, there's a little thing there in the bottom there.
Yeah, so it is aesthetically appropriate for the reasons that I've stated.
Yes.
And the proposed modification does not pose consistency issues with the single family residential design guidelines.
Very good, thank you. May I have a second?
Oh, excuse me, Board Member Colas and Chair Miller.
Yeah.
I just wanted clarification that this in no way affects your previous support for the substantial redevelopment in the front setback. It's all one front setback modification. So I just want to make sure it's clear in the minutes that you're supportive of the entire front setback mod as a whole, not just this one component of it.
Are we being asked to re-comment on the full project or just this new item that is before us today? That's where the confusion is.
So they came back because of the revision, but in the minutes, it's important that the staff hearing officer understands that you're supportive or not supportive of the setback modification as a whole.
So our comments from the prior hearing would still stand, and those are not affected. They are rather just augmented by these comments at this meeting.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that's clear in the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, may I have a roll? Did I get a second?
I'll second it.
All right, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll start the roll call vote. Board Member Ara Kellyan.
No.
Board Member Brentlinger.
Yes.
Board Member Motisha.
Yes.
Vice Chair Colas.
Yes.
And Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-1.
I think our client could be, or the future clients could be pushed in a direction like this one could get a final approval if it was asked for. And I don't think they probably know that they could ask for a final approval because there's just no reason for them to come.
I don't think they can, Mr. Motisha, because this has to go to the staff hearing officer prior to us being able to give them design approval or final approval.
Another hoop to jump through. Okay, I apologize. I'm just trying to make it a lot easier for everybody. Granted.
Okay.
And board member, apologies, Chair Miller, I believe
Sure.
we're a few minutes ahead of time before we can start item 2. We can only start within 15 minutes. So that would be 3:40. It's 3:33 right now.
Okay.
So if we can just take a few minutes and then
All
we
right,
can
let's-
move on to item 2.
Okay, let's take a break till 3:40 and we'll reconvene at that time.
Thank you.
2436 De La Vina Street. This is project design approval and final approval is requested. Proposal to add two new uncovered parking spaces located within the secondary front setback along Quinto Street. Project includes minor zoning exceptions for overheight fencing along Quinto Street and De La Vina Street, and a driveway gate along Quinto Street. New doors and windows, utility upgrades, new siding, and interior remodel to the existing 1,157 square foot single unit residence and associated site improvements are proposed. Project requires a waiver from the Public Works Director for the driveway gate location and a waiver from the Single Family Design Board for reduced screening of uncovered parking. Project will address violations outlined on ZIR 2014-00412. The staff hearing officer granted a parking modification, open yard modification, and front setback modification on July 28, 2021 in the project proposed development. Project design approval and final approval are requested. Neighborhood preservation findings are required. Project was last reviewed on June 21st, 2021. Vice Chair Kalas, do we have any minutes to read into the record?
And I'm sorry, you're still muted, Vice Chair Klaus.
Thank you. At the last meeting, the following motion was made. The project was continued to the staff hearing officer for return to the full board with comments. The board was generally in favor of the requested open yard setbacks and parking modifications. In this particular case, due to the significant amount of congestion and traffic that exists in this neighborhood as a result of the Rehab Institute on De La Vina Street. The board would like to see the faux chimney removed and the related vents shall be painted black above the roof line. The applicant shall consider reducing the hedge height to match the height of the proposed concrete masonry wall. The concrete masonry unit wall shall be finished with a steel troweled cat paw texture rather than the proposed texture. The applicant shall consider reducing or changing the nature of light fixtures proposed in order to reduce the amount of light that appears to be reflected on the drawings. That was an interesting double entendre there. Item 6 is the applicant shall return to the board with details articulating the manner in which the exterior siding relates to the head, jamb, and sill conditions of the windows. And the applicant shall return to the board with a color board with specific colors and manufacturers denoted for materials. The applicant shall return to the board with details of the supporting members and rolling mechanisms for the gate. The motion was made by myself, seconded by Mr. Motisha, and it carried 5-0 with no dissenting voices.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Strauss, if you'd like to go through how you address the minutes, that would be great.
Yeah, let's just go through them one by one. Just give me a second. All right, so if we go to, let's talk about first the chimney. We can go to page 6 in the presentation. And as you see, we took the fake chimney out on the top right in the northwest elevation. What do you want to say something to this one?
Oh, as far as the texture for the wall goes, we definitely prefer the original one we presented.
This will be on page 11.
It seems like a nice, clean texture that reminds us of like the Santa Barbara beach town. And
sorry, that's not the right plan.
Huh?
That's not the plan that we
What do you mean?
This is not on.
Which page are you trying to get to? The one that delineates the texture of the plaster?
The plans December 2021.
Yeah, this looks like a photo legend.
Right.
Yeah, that's not right.
On that one, yeah. Old plan set, no. I don't think you have the,
The most recent that we sent.
This should be the most recent set. It was combined with the photos that were previously submitted. So
Okay, so this is just the photo legend. So we're, okay.
There we go.
yeah.
so that's the wall finish we have in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, we honestly didn't, I mean, basically we've complied with all of the requests of the board and taken out all of our design elements. So this would just be one that we could keep a personal touch on. That would be nice.
Okay, then.
We've taken everything out. And then we did also remove a lot of the lights in the landscaping.
I need to show that on the
Yeah, just go through item per item because we tend to confuse easy.
Okay.
So the next item I believe would be reduce the lights. That would be on page. Mine is on page 9. Let's hope it's still right.
Okay, there's that pic.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, so as you can see, like the green dots like shows like the location of the lights. So we have a substantial amount in the font, but it's all like where it says grass and grass, like on the lower side of the property. So that's all it's like walkway lights or pathway lights, and so they don't have a lot of light output. They're just there to give like a little bit of I don't know, like light the paths up. And then once you go further up in the property, there's barely any outside lights, and it's really to the minimum to see where you walk, or there's like wall sconces on every side of the house, but we kept it to
one
per side, and then on the right side there's like 2, I think. Oh no, there's also only one where it says
gate.
Existing concrete walkway, and there's like a little gate that's existing, and so we put a wall sconce there.
And then
so the next one would be the gate change, and then we can go for that one. Walls and fences. On page 8, the one in front. Okay, so you can see on the kind of like on the top view, like where the gate is located on the left side, where it says add electric wall gate. Then there's like detailed shots on the like on those 3 little circular I don't know what you call that, honey.
Like focused views.
Like this, detail views. So you see there's like a gate stop, and you see where the motor is located, and there's a roller guide in the middle.
So last time it was requested to see more the functionality of the gate and how it would work. So we wanted to include that.
Right.
So can staff zoom in on those details, please?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
And then what else was, they wanted some landscaping details.
I don't like that's what all that I was able to.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's any other questions. I think we addressed everything that was asked of us last time.
Okay.
Oh, there was.
Right.
Sorry.
All right, then I'll bring it back to, did we get any public comment, please?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you're attending the meeting and would like to make public comment on this item on the agenda, you can use the instructions on the screen and click the raise your hand to comment, and we'll promote you so you're allowed to speak. And I do not see any hands raised currently, Chair Miller. Ms. Fennessy, did we receive any written correspondence on this item?
Thank you. We did not receive any written correspondence for this item, and I do not see any hands raised, so I'll hand it back to the board.
All right, thank you. All right, go for any questions. Vice Chair Collas, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, so in the interest of trying to allow the applicants to keep this design element in terms of the texture on the wall, does that wall in all locations sit behind the hedge that's proposed along the property line, or is there anywhere that wall is exposed?
That's correct. The wall is not exposed at all. It's always behind the hedge.
Okay, so would you be willing, from the standpoint of compromise, to accept a condition if we were to make a motion that allowed you to keep the texture that you desire on the inside of the wall that faces the home, but have a smooth troweled finish on the outside that would be screened by the hedge?
Okay with you? Okay, sure. Sounds good.
Okay, those are my only questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Arakalian, do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
Thank you. Board Member Brettlinger, do you have any questions, please?
Only one question, which is a fencing question. Are you replacing the fence on what I guess is the southeast side? Yeah, on that site plan, it would be the one on the right side of the site plan. Is that a replacement fence, or are you leaving the one as is?
Leaving the one that is there right now.
It's shared with a neighbor. It's actually their fence.
Okay, all right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
Board Member Motisha.
No questions.
I have no questions either. I think you're pretty clear in addressing our minutes, so I'll bring it back to comments. Vice Chair Collas, do you have any comments, please?
Did Mr. Arakulian get an opportunity to ask questions or make comments? I don't know if he did.
Did I skip you? I apologize.
Sorry?
Did I skip you, or did you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Apologize. All right, appreciate that. Leslie, do you have any comments, please?
No, I don't have any comments. I can support the project as it stands with the condition mentioned previously.
Thank you. Board Member Arakalian, do you have any comments, please?
No comments aside from the proposed project, I believe, is aesthetically appropriate and compatible with the neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I did go out and visit the site earlier today, and that just confirmed my feeling that this is appropriate to the neighborhood, and I commend you on the design.
Great, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
I also feel the design is appropriate with the neighborhood. I just have one comment that I think I made the last time, but it didn't make it into the minutes, is that where you're trimming back that hedge per city request, I think it's better to just remove completely. It's a little awkward, and that's my only comment.
Could you specifically say where you're saying that?
Yeah, so the sheet that's you're looking at right now, the top elevation, it says trim back hedge to 42 inches per city. I'm saying just remove that hedge completely in that location, because it's just going to continue to grow up and you're going to have to continue to trim it. And it's just kind of awkward Edward Scissorhands looking thing. So my recommendation is to just completely remove, and you can plant something new, and it'll also look nicer on that elevation. On either side, you'll see the fencing.
All right, great, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
No, I agree with Katie. That's a good idea. Kind of make that elevation symmetrical and fit. That hedge just looks kind of odd right there. And but I do appreciate the things that you've changed it Drive by that house for 75 years and bringing the hedge down to 8 feet would really make that house look nice because you could just barely see the roof over top of it. Right now, it's kind of totally hidden behind an overgrown hedge. And yeah, I think this project follows our guidelines.
Okay. All right, thank you. I will basically support what other people have said about the project. And that being said, would someone like to entertain a motion? They're here for project design approval and final approval. If you'd like to include that in your motion.
I'll make a motion
Okay.
for project design approval and final approval with the following findings. That the project is consistent in appearance with the scenic character of the neighborhood, and it's also compatible in size, bulk, and scale. Quality architectural materials are being used. No significant trees are being removed. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected. The good neighbor guidelines are also followed regarding privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting, and no public views are being impacted.
Okay, did you want it? There were two comments that were made. First, yours. Do you want to add to that motion about the hedge being removed? Also, there was a comment that Vice Chair Kalas talked about with the plaster. Did you want to include that in the motion?
Sure, I think.
Do I need to second that first, Mr. Miller?
Okay, can I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Mr. Matisha seconded it.
Okay.
I'll modify to add the condition that hedge, that 42-inch hedge area be removed completely. And then Board Member Kalas, can you remind me what your comment is, and I will include.
Yeah, the comment would be that the proposed texture of the site wall is acceptable at the interior portion of the wall facing the residence, but that the outer portion of the wall that faces public ways be smooth troweled plaster.
Great. I will also add that comment that the exterior street facing side will be smooth trowel stucco.
And the seconder, Mr. Motisha, are you comfortable with that addition?
Right, second it. May I? Oh, I second it, and then I have a comment. I second. When we remove that hedge, that area, I'm still questioning what's behind it. Is that a fence that's behind that, or is that a new wall that's behind that? I think it's a fence.
That's
a
the
new
fence. Yeah.
Fence.
Okay. Yeah.
You can see in the middle. Oh yeah, we're not on that slide anymore. But yeah, it's a fence.
Mm-hmm.
fence that matches the fence that you have on the other side.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's fine. I second that. Yes.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll go ahead and start the roll call vote. Board Member R. Kellyan,
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kalas,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
And Chair Miller, apologies, we're moving through the agenda quite quickly. So we once again will have to take a break after you announce the appeal period before we can start item 3.
Okay, there's a 10-day appeal period for this project. Thank you very much. So our next project is agendized for 4:35, are you correct?
Yes, so we'll need to recess until 4:20.
Oh, you mean, okay, 4:20. Be back at 4:20, you guys. Thank you. convene the Single Family Design Board for February 14th, 2022. We're at item number 3, 640 Juanita Road. This is a new item, concept review. Proposal for a 719 square foot first floor addition to an existing 1,285 square foot single unit residence located within the Hillside Design District. Project includes demolition of an existing gabled roof to be replaced with a flat roof, improvements to the existing 433 square foot two-car garage, driveway replacement, and associated site improvements. The proposed total of 2,407 square feet on a 9,460 square foot lot is 68% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. Staff hearing officer review and approval is required for a front setback modification to allow new fence walls and replacement of a portion of the roof in the primary 30-foot front setback, and a front setback modification to allow a portion of the addition to encroach into the secondary 30-foot front setback. Slide 2, please. No final appealable action will take place at this meeting. Neighborhood preservation findings and Hillside Design District and slope lot findings will be required to be made for project design approval. So Mr. Wenke, I apologize, how do you pronounce your last name?
Yeah, that's close enough. Wenke.
Wenke, you'd like to present your plans?
Sure. Okay, everybody, thanks for letting me present. Hi, everyone. Does everyone know where this is? On the Mesa, do you come down Cliff Drive? Right before you get down to where all the excitement is, it's on the left-hand side. If this is the front elevation on this first page, and a couple of axiometric drawings from the aerial. As you can see from the top rendering portion, that's the main gist that you just spoke about. The pitched roofs are coming off and new flat roofs are going on. That is one trigger for having any work in the setback areas. So that's what it looks like. It's basically a very minimal one-story block, modern looking, mid-century modern to a certain degree. And there's a courtyard in the front being created by this little wall and the gate to the new front entry. The garage is on the left. The door to the left of that hides the garbage cans, takes you around to the side yard. I think it's probably better to look at the plans, but the other two renderings are from aerial show portions of the addition in the back, which would be under aerial from northwest, bottom right aerial. And there's a little section above that that's also addition. And then on the left aerial, there's a section right above the circle.
Do you have specific pages you can call out? I think it would be helpful for the.
Oh, it's just the first page still.
Okay, all right, all right.
Those are the aerials, if you're all looking at them. Yeah, there you go. So that little addition in the front there between the garage. Great, perfect. That area on the left, an aerial from southwest. That little bump out in the middle of the drawing is a little addition to the master bedroom. And then the area above it to the right in the back is a little bedroom addition off the back. And the whole left side between that portion and the other area is also an addition. Those are the three areas of addition. The corner of the entryway or of the main living room area is being filled in. Right now it's kind of steps back there. And I'll show you that in the plan. The drawing on the right aerial, that's the portion in the backyard. There was a comment from the neighbor, and they just wanted to know if there was a two-story addition, if there's an illumination to their backyard, and the answer is no. It's only a one-story house. It stays that way. So let's go to the next page. So there it is on Juanita, Luisa, Dolores Avenue on the Mesa. And the main premise is the area in yellow shows the front yard, and the front yard is the sunniest, best place to hang out on the property. And Luisa Street is actually lower by a few feet because it's rising up the hill on Juanita. and down the hill on Louisa. And so that little portion is actually a bit higher. You can't actually see it as you walk on the street or sidewalk. But where it says sunny area, new courtyard, that's what we're trying to create, is a little courtyard area on the front that's basically private. The house is in gray. That's the existing Google Map roof. The blue areas show the little additions that we're adding on that I spoke about earlier. There is morning light on the right-hand side, which is the backyard. And so what they wanted to have was a great room that had indoor-outdoor feel on both the front and backyard. And you'll see that in the renderings and in the plans and elevations. That's it. Next slide. These are the existing neighbors. And the house in the first drawing, first photograph upper left, that's the house adjacent to the uphill. And our project site is one below it on the right. You see it there? So you can already see how basically each lot seems to step up 6 to 8 to 10 feet as it climbs the hill. Other properties across the street. The existing house is right in the middle. It's in kind of that ochre color, top of the sheet. There's the courtyard as it exists today on the right-hand side of the upper section. Below that is the backyard area with an existing 6-8 foot high fence on the left in wood. Adjacent neighbors, 643 Juanita, other houses in the neighborhood, 650 Juanita, 705 Dolores, which is down the hill from Louisa. You're following along the names very well. And then the other one around the corner is Roberto Avenue. It was a second story addition. Next slide. So this one shows you the setbacks, which is SB. Here you go. And that starts to speak. This is the existing setbacks required by the city today because it's a corner unit, corner lot. So it has 2 setbacks, a first and a primary setback front yard and a secondary setback front yard. And that is causing some of the problems on the very bottom of the sheet where it says great room addition, 15 square feet. That is, since it's in the setback already and you're adding to it, it's in the setback. So that needs to get a modification from the staff hearing officer. But then you can see the rest of the blue areas are the additions I spoke of before, a little bit in the front bedroom, across the back side yard on the left at the top of the sheet, and a back bedroom in the back. The section in the darker gray is the existing garage. The front gate is on the left-hand side. Courtyard there is on the left bottom left. And then it's the see-through section between the front and backyard, which I was speaking to before, that indoor-outdoor relationship between the front courtyard and the back courtyard, or back patio for the most part. Let's go to the next slide. It has all the requirements. The dark gray area is the 1250 outdoor space. Most of the new walls are staying. You do the linear footage area of existing walls and demoed walls. And that's on a different sheet, but it all complies with zoning. But we have to go to staff hearing officer for a couple of the issues that I mentioned. One of them being that any new work in the setback area, even though it's pre-existing condition, needs to be approved. Next slide. It's mostly going to be these color materials, and as you can see from the two elevations here, it's very short. It's not a very tall house, and when the roofs have come off, it's stucco and either a redwood or a cementitious redwood looking product, and those are the areas shown that look like redwood and brown on the drawing. And some stucco and some board form concrete. The front gate's made out of steel. That's it. There's a couple more pages of elevations. The bottom one is the front from Juanita. As you can see, well within the solar ordinance. These elevations are actually very accurate to the stucco colors also. There's the existing house elevations. Here's an entry coming through the front gate, rendering of the front courtyard area. On the left-hand side, as you can see from this view, this aerial view, there's a little kind of sub courtyard, sub outdoor area hidden by those louvers, which is a little private outdoor area for the master bedroom suite. So when you first walk in, you don't see right into the master bedroom. This shows you a good example of that glass corner that is part of the modification that's requested, and the front courtyard and the back courtyard on the right-hand side, or back patio. I keep calling it courtyard, but back patio. Next slide. This is the rear patio. You can start to see how there's that indoor-outdoor relationship between the front and the glass in the back, using pivot doors or bifold doors, and the front also. Back area has the adjacency to the kitchen and the barbecue area, and the new bedroom. Next slide. This is the interior great room. With the doors open. Next slide. Yeah, so these are basically the color palette, Machia, fiber cement, or redwood, whatever product they want to use. They're basically mimicking each other. Dove gray on the white stucco, tuxedo or colored on the other part of the stucco. And then we're using a Coronado plank, which is basically it looks like a ceramic tile type of thing, a plank tile. You've probably seen them around, using that on the wall surfaces to sort of mimic a board form concrete. And the board form concrete is, the bottom one is for some of the exterior courtyard walls. And aluminum clad wood windows, as you can see from the middle section. Okay. And there's more renderings. I think this might be the last slide. Oh, this was the diagram required by zoning to show the percentage of detailed calculations for linear footage of exterior walls remaining versus ones removed. And it has to be, it shows it's greater than 50%, so it complies with zoning. I think that's the last slide.
Okay, is that the conclusion of your presentation?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Plummer, did we get any public feedback?
Thank you, Chair Miller. If you're attending the meeting and you would like to make public comment on this particular item on the agenda, please follow the instructions on the screen. There's an option to raise your hand to comment. And I do not see any hands raised at this time. Ms. Fennessy, did we receive any written correspondence on this item?
Thank you. We received one public comment letter from Sarah James, and that was distributed to the board prior to this meeting. And at this time, I do not see any hands raised, so I'll hand it back to the board.
All right, thank you. I'll bring it back to the board for questions. Vice Chair Colas, do you have any questions, please?
I have a couple of questions. I guess it's mostly in terms of overall form and some finishes. So it looks like there's there's a lot of contrast on this that I'm seeing, which can be very attractive, but you're up on the mesa. You do get some sun, as you're saying, especially in this front corner of the property. And so it's a little surprising to me that I'm seeing, like steel panels here that are existing between this board form concrete that seem like they would get awfully hot to the touch, or, the front garage being painted black. Is there anything that you can do to speak to the selection of the materials and the choice to go to a flat roof in this neighborhood? Because it's I think it's relatively acontextual for the neighborhood. I think most houses in the neighborhood have pitched roofs. And so I'm just wondering what is driving those choices of materials and the flat roof.
Okay, should I answer right now?
Yes, please.
Well, the choices of materials were driven by, and as of this pitched the flat roof client request. This is the kind of house they're going to retire to, and this the style of house they would like to live in. Something very simple and very modern in the sense of simplicity and indoor-outdoor feel. The colors were chosen and approved by the clients also is something that they've seen and they like. They did not believe that the darker colors were going to be detracting. They thought they'd be more receding and handsome within the building structure. The panels that you mentioned on the right-hand side of the courtyard we felt they were basically impossible to get to hurt yourself or burn yourself because there's a planting area between those and the wall. So we figured that would be not an issue for touching and burning themselves. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is that your only question?
Those are my only questions. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Board member Kalian, do you have any questions, please?
I do. So it's in regard to the front, the site walls at the entrance. And I think it was noted that it was within the front yard setback. I'm just trying to have more context, or, would like to better understand what is driving, or better understand your perspective on why you selected the locations of those concrete site walls.
The concrete site walls, we can see in the front rendering here, are relatively short. They're like 5 feet high. And they basically create a private zone in the front yard from the neighborhood and from cars driving by. And that area is the nicest part of the property, where they hang out most of the time. And it has an ocean view and overlooks the trees. Adjacent to the across the street, there's a few trees that block the view of the ocean, but they also block the view of the neighbors, and the neighbors' views are blocked of this property by those trees also. So it's pretty well sequestered by mature trees. But yeah, that's why they wanted to have this kind of entry sequence between the front sidewalk, driveway, or street, and the front yard, without getting too tall of walls. The walls, I don't think, are a problem as far as zoning. They're allowed in the zone, and those were not an issue of the that we need to go to the modification hearing officer for.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, board member Brentlinger, do you have any questions, please?
Just one really. Let's stay on this slide and look at the aerial from the northeast down at the bottom right there. Can you enlarge that? Great. And my question has to do, I guess, from a semi-safety standpoint, about the area by the barbecue and the bar area back there, and just wonder what your thoughts were about just general circulation in that narrowest part of the patio back there. I keep looking at the step down into the agave cactus, wondering if that could pose a hazard to somebody.
Right. There's been a very minimal amount of client interaction with the landscape plan at this point. So I think it's fair to say that at this point, that's what I have in the computer. So I threw them in there, and they basically create a landscape zone that separates the bedroom, which is the part that's added on from the private area. And although there's a link between that area to the main patio, that one rendering showed that primarily. So I think this whole area probably is going to require more client feedback and a landscape architect that we have on board ready to start.
Okay, so I granted there's more work to be done, but as it's drawn right now, how wide is that section right by the barbecue there and by the patio?
Probably about 6 feet by 15.
Yeah.
6 by 15.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I've got.
All right. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
This is just a follow-up. I know you haven't done the landscape plan yet, but are you removing any trees, or are these trees that you're planning on adding conceptually at this point?
As far as I remember, most of them are being added. There's one in the back that's staying. So on that rendering, it says southwest, the bottom middle. That tree in the back is, I believe, is staying on the right-hand side there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The one by the garage, I can't remember if it's new or proposed at this point.
But no significant trees are proposed to be removed?
No.
Great. Okay.
Exactly, no.
That's my only question. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please?
Yes, Mark. Could we go to the floor plan again? Just to inform me of, well, I think it turns into a four bedroom and 3 bath. Is that what we're going to have finally?
Can you go one? I think it's 3 bedroom, 2 bath, or 3 bath. But
let's
go to the next couple of sheets.
Go to the floor plan.
Yeah, not this one. The next one. This one's fine too, but go to the next one. Okay, so there's a new addition in the back on the right-hand side. That's a 1 bedroom. Bedroom 2 is
right next
in
to
the
it.
middle, and bedroom 1 is the master. The older bedroom, which was bedroom 2, is now turned into the master bathroom area and master bathroom closet.
Now I picture it. Okay, so there. Okay, the master
1, 2.
front of the front.
So it's 3.5 bath.
Right. 1, 2, 3. Yes, 3.5 bath. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's no questions there. One other question. You have a rear fence on your east side, east on the right, on the east.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's existing.
That's existing. You're not changing it. I noticed in the rendering it was a vertical wood-sided fence.
I believe it's vertical, yeah.
Okay, and the wall, your elevations or your renderings do not look like what is. I understand what they're concrete pillars with steel in between them.
So the whole front area is board form concrete, and then on the bottom of the sheet, which is the big called the south elevation, it's a series of sections of board form concrete with steel panels going between them.
But you would be able to pick up from I guess that's Louise something street that you would.
Yeah, that's a shorter section of the wall there. I think if you go to the first page or one of the renderings, or maybe the elevations, it might show them too. One of the colored renderings.
Oh, there.
Yeah, you see how much shorter it is on the side? Yeah.
Okay, no, I think the size, bulk, and scale looks follows our guidelines very well. It looks very, and I think that's comments. Oh, wait, go ahead. No more questions. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Wenke, is there any homes nearby that have flat roofs?
I haven't done an exhaustive study of it. So I know there's some areas in the Mesa that have some mid-century modern houses, and there are some other areas in the Mesa that have some flat roofs, some newer projects also over the years. So I can't answer that positively.
Okay, that'll be my only question. So I'm going to bring it back to comments. Board Vice Chair Kalas, do you have any comments, please?
Yeah. I think that I could support the modifications for the work that's being done within the setbacks in order to allow the use of these outdoor spaces. I would like to see some more study done in terms of the topography of the neighborhood and how it relates to this site. My concern is that you're kind of creating this private front courtyard area, and yet as you approach this house from above, unless those walls get very tall, you may be having people peering down into this space anyhow, which kind of defeats the purpose. And even the neighbor across, they're quite elevated, it seems like, relative to this parcel. So I would like to understand that before definitively saying that I could support that, but conceptually I can understand the use of those spaces, especially given the fact that you have two front yards that you're dealing with here. I think the project is attractive, but I would have a very difficult time supporting this from a neighborhood consistency standpoint because of the flat roofs and what feels like an extreme deviation from the character and fabric of the neighborhood. There's a couple projects that we've seen recently. One of them I think was done by Thompson Naylor that was very sensitively approached, and they found a way to sort of work with the existing mid-century nature of the house. I feel like this is very divergent from everything in the neighborhood, and I would have a very hard time supporting the flat roofs because I don't think there are many, if any, in the neighborhood. And so I think contextually it does not fit in, unfortunately. It's not that I don't think it's an attractive project. I just don't think I can personally make the neighborhood preservation findings that would be required to support it. Those are my comments.
All right, thank you. Board Member Arakalian, do you have any comments, please?
I do. I've reviewed the public comments, and I've also I've driven by this property, and also block in each direction, and I'm pretty familiar between Dolores and Meigs Road. It's a predominantly ranch style of houses. You know, the amount of flat roof going into with this project is quite a contrast. And I believe the neighborhood has it's not very eclectic. I think it's predominantly ranch style. So I would have a hard time approving this. I believe there should be a carefully drafted material board at the next meeting that has a color palette with less contrast, more of a blend of neutral and earth tones. the front entry walls are a concrete board form. And then that as the applicant mentioned, the south walls are a concrete board form with steel, as I'm seeing here. So I believe the applicant should explore or should study like landscape screening, possibly the use of stone as a softer, more natural alternative instead of these kinds of walls all the way around. And similar to Vice Chair Collas, Chair Miller's question about the roof, I'm trying to get a better understanding of comparable houses in the neighborhood that not necessarily have the entire style, but have particular elements of the style. And it's not really connecting with me right now. So yeah, those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
Just a couple of things. I think the previous comments about the roof are the focus of most of our attention. So I guess I would be asking for other examples of flat roofs in the neighborhood, or perhaps what the views would be from the neighboring homes of this particular house, given the topography, just to show how it would appear from the neighborhood itself. Because in general, I think it's high quality materials and a considered design. So we're just wondering how it will fit in overall in the neighborhood. Those are my only comments.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I generally agree with Board Member Brentlinger. I think generally the Mesa to me is more of an eclectic neighborhood, but more study would be helpful to see what other residences look like that might be similar to this. I think it is high quality materials and a really nice design aesthetically. I also think that some of the materials are a bit harsh, and I think that the landscape will help with that. And then anything with high heat, such as steel or black, I think planting will help with that, but just something else to study in materials are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
Yes. Whether we like it or not, we need to follow our guidelines, and our guidelines, number 2, compatibility with the neighborhood. I think the design is, I think the design follows our guidelines. As far as the design bulk and scale and material and workmanship, follows our guidelines, but we as a board need to follow this number 2, which is compatibility. I think Board Member Collas brought up the Thompson-Naylor project, where they put some flat roofs on it in their project, but they also retained a little bit of the ranch style house that they were trying to modernize a little bit, and it worked. I think I would like to, based on our guidelines, I'd like to support this project, but I would like it to come back to us with some studies of the neighborhood and see if this flat roof design fits into the compatibility of the neighborhood. And if it does, so be it. And yes, it's a good design. But if it doesn't, we need to stay with our guidelines. And yes, I think that's my comments.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wenke,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with our design guidelines. And the reason I bring this up, I think it's really important, and I continually bring this up with other architects because it really helps them a lot, so they don't feel like we're kind of being capricious. But on page 24C, number 11 on page 24C, It says, most neighborhoods possess examples of distinctive architecture. In these neighborhoods, structures and additions should present a harmonious character with the particular surrounding neighborhood, avoiding a clashing or discordant appearance. Structure elements should be consistent with the best elements to distinguish the particular neighborhood where they are being proposed. These elements include, but are not limited to, size, scale, roof lines, textures, colors, materials, maintenance of existing setback and patterns of development, and in particular neighborhoods is also important. Neighborhoods without distinctive architecture, in neighborhoods that do not possess examples of distinctive architectures, for example, some blocks on the West Mesa, structures and additions should be designed to lead the neighborhood toward designs that are harmonious with Santa Barbara's distinctive built environment. And now, I agree with Mr. Motisha. I think the design of the home is attractive, but I don't think it doesn't go by our design guidelines. You introduce a flat roof element, yet in that neighborhood, I don't see any flat roofs. So the whole design is kind of a discordant to the existing neighborhood. So I cannot support the current style of the home based on the context of the neighborhood that's already existing. I think there are some opportunities here for you to explore a modern approach to this, but I'd have to see it being similar, more harmonious with the existing context of the neighborhood. I think the colors and the materials are not consistent. They're a little bit too harsh. If this was Palm Springs, this is gorgeous. I'd want it in a minute. But in this particular context, I think there needs to be a considerable amount more of study. And I think you should get really familiar with the design guidelines and have your clients be very sensitive and aware of what's established in this particular community. And so that in that context, I can't support the current. I can support the size and the bulk, but I can't support the style. So those are my only comments at this time.
Chairman, could you go back to the pictures of the existing neighborhood? I'd say it's page 2, maybe 3.
Well, if you go back to that other picture, you can see all the roof lines, which is really obvious to me.
Well, nothing in the ordinance says that houses need to relate to each other.
Well, let me make it clear to you. I can't support I get what you're saying,
Oh,
but based on what I observe in consistency of style, you're completely introducing a new style. I'm not saying it's a bad style. I don't think none of us are, but I don't think it's appropriate for this neighborhood. I don't think a flat roof is appropriate. So based on the design guidelines, and those are that's my comment, and I'm going to stand by it. So you can disagree, which is you're perfectly right to do that. But based on what I can see in the current design guidelines, it's not consistent with that. So
I was going to ask you to repeat that section on that saying neighborhoods that don't have a clearly distinct architectural character.
Okay, I'm really done with this conversation, sir. Mr. Wenke, I clearly hear what you're saying, but look at this picture. There's no flat roof in this neighborhood in this picture, sir. And that's what I'm basing it on. So I'm standing by that comment. That's the purpose of our board. That's why we were created, because of things to make sure that neighborhoods are consistent and compatible. So, and I can tell you, quite frankly, the reason this board was created is a woman built a huge Victorian house in this neighborhood, and it created a huge neighborhood outcry. So it's not because it's modern, it's just got to be consistent so that the styles are harmonious with each other. And that's what I'm looking at.
We have to follow our guidelines.
Chair Miller.
Chair Miller.
I think it's a reasonable request that the clients made for them to understand what section of our guideline you're citing.
Yes.
So, Mr. Wenke, it's on page 28C of our guidelines.
24C.
Okay, I was looking under section 11, and there's a paragraph there, neighborhoods without distinctive architecture.
Yes.
And that on my guidelines is on page 28C, but it's under section 11, Mr. Wenke.
Okay.
And I think there's some great opportunities here. I'm just, you know.
Chair Miller, I believe all the board members have made comments.
Yes.
So if you'd like to entertain a motion, we can move forward with this item. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Would someone like to entertain a motion with comments only?
Mr. Chair, this has to go to the review office. And I was wondering if that can be done before coming back to you guys.
Chair Miller, it's at the board's discretion if you'd like to see this item again for an additional concept review before it goes to the staff hearing officer, or if you'd like to continue indefinitely to the staff hearing officer with your comments as you will make them in your motion. So I'll leave that up to you.
Great, thank you. With that being said, would someone like to entertain a motion?
I'd be happy to entertain a motion, but I'd like to ask the applicant whether he would prefer to be, I guess, Mr. Wenke, I don't know that you're in a strong position to go to the SHO right now. So I'm wondering if you would like to return to the board and we could continue indefinitely, or if we would if you would prefer that we just make our comments and you'll roll the dice. I'm trying to accommodate another meeting with us if you'd like to do that.
Well, I'm sure we could come up to some design approval that you guys really like. That the staff hearing officer is for the zoning part of it, which is the sections that are being built in the setback area. And I think our clients would feel a lot more comfortable knowing that that part of it was at least approvable before continuing to change the design, right? And continue to pay us to change the design and keep working on the design. Then we go to this staff hearing officer and they don't approve it anyways. So
Okay.
I think if you can mention that is the size, bulk, and scale, that the neighbors, that the project is good in that direction, that kind of thing, then that they could review, and we'll come back to nail out the design better.
So perhaps we could take a straw vote, Chair Miller, and see if everybody would be in support of the modifications that are being requested in terms of the areas where those are being proposed. Does that seem reasonable?
Absolutely. May we have a roll call, please?
Question.
Yes.
Board Member Colossus, I didn't really understand that reason, or I'm game for a straw vote, but I didn't understand which way are we voting? What are we voting on? Sorry.
So what we're trying to do is the applicant would like to be more assured that we are or are not in support of the development within the setbacks that they would need to have approved by the staff hearing officer.
Just the zoning, or not the zoning, but the setbacks.
Well, if I could jump in here, I think I can support the size, bulk, and scale, and I can definitely support the modifications. I can support that aspect. I think that's what Board Member Colossus is talking about for a straw vote.
Answer my question. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we still need a straw vote, I think.
Yes.
Thank you. I can start the straw vote. Board Member R. Kellyan,
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Vice Chair Colossus,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. That straw poll passes.
Okay. Okay, so based on that information, I'll make an effort here. I'd like to make a motion that this project be continued to the staff hearing officer with favorable comments by the board relative specifically to the proposed uses and development within the setbacks. We feel that the areas proposed for development are aesthetically appropriate relative to size, bulk, and scale. However, the board generally does not feel that the nature of the proposed design is consistent with the neighborhood, and the board is struggling with neighborhood compatibility aspects of the project from that standpoint. I guess that's my motion. So we would recommend that I'll continue. We would recommend that the applicant consider or reconsider maintaining or introducing sloped roofs that appear to be more congruent with the neighborhood, and that the palette of finishes being proposed be softened both in color and texture.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
So would the maker of the motion like to replace the word struggling with not supportable? Because struggling is a little bit of an ethereal word. It's like someone's fighting.
I'm fine with that change, yes. Yes, I'll accept that change.
Okay, thank you. Would the seconder?
Go ahead.
Yes.
I'd like to make a comment after a second, if there is a second.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Okay, I don't see a place for, I think the contrasting, I think one or two of us made a comment, and I didn't, about the comment about the contrasting colors and materials. I think they follow our guidelines, and I don't think we should put that in the motion, that we feel that the materials and the contrasting colors need to be.
Well, do you have a specific verbiage you want to say? Can we,
yeah, what you're saying, I always get tongue-tied when I'm trying to say.
Who's writing down the motion? I'm sorry, can someone reread it so I can hear what it says?
So I think,
maybe,
let's be clear on the order of events here. I believe Mr. Arakelian has seconded that amended motion.
Yes.
If he could confirm that.
Would like to recite the motion again before I say yes to that.
Okay.
Ms. Plummer, can someone, yes, thank you. Board, Ms. Hennessy, yeah.
Thank you. I have to continue the staff hearing officer for return to the full board with favorable comments relative specifically to the proposed uses and development within the setbacks. The areas proposed for development are aesthetically appropriate to size, bulk, and scale. The board generally feels that the nature of the proposed design is not consistent with the neighborhood and not supportive with the neighborhood compatibility. Reconsider maintaining or introducing slope roof and palette of finishes proposed be softened in color and texture.
That last comment, I think Mr. Arakelian was the only person that brought up that thing, and I don't think that should be put in the motion.
Okay, well.
So I'm not trying to misrepresent the board in general, Mr. Motisha. I heard Ms. Klein talk about how several of the materials are harsh, but she thinks that the landscape may help. I heard Mr. Arakelian make the note that you made. I have an issue with some of the finishes. I believe Mr. Miller also made a comment. So I did feel that that represented the bulk of the board.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you. So does the seconder of the motion approve of the revision as presented?
Yes, as presented, yes.
Okay, thank you. May I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll go ahead and start the roll call vote. Board Member Arakelian.
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger.
Yes.
Board Member Klein.
Yes.
Board Member Motisha.
Yes.
Vice Chair Kalas.
Yes.
And Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Hey, thank you guys. See you
All
soon.
right. Have your creative
Hard work.
juices flowing.
I feel the love on Valentine's Day.
All right, thank you.
All right.
All right, moving on to item 4. Let's see. Are we on time here?
Yes, Chair Miller, we are
my God,
on
we're-
time.
All right, cool.
We're actually a little behind, to be clear.
Okay, so we're at item number 5. Oh boy. 1384 Shoreline Drive. This is a continued item for concept review. Proposal to demolish the existing single-family residence and construct a new 2-story single-family residence with an attached garage. The project includes associated site and landscape improvements, a new pool and pool amenity structure. The proposed total of 2,499 square feet on a 6,191 square foot lot is 91% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. Planning Commission review and approval is required for a coastal development permit. No final appealable action will take place at this hearing. Neighborhood preservation findings will be required to be made for project design approval. Project was last reviewed on January 18th, 2022. Do we have minutes to put into the record? If Vice Chair Colossus, if you could be so kind to read them into the record, if we have them.
This is Heidi Rydell, Mr. Chair, controlling the plans. My Adobe PDF has stopped responding, so I'm just waiting for it to come back to me, and I will pull up the minutes momentarily.
Yeah, I noticed there's this weird gray square that pops up. I don't know if anyone's getting that too.
I'm not seeing anything of that nature. Mr. Miller, I just realized I was not here for the last review of this project.
Okay.
And I have not reviewed the drawings or minutes or video related thereto. So I'm probably going to have to recuse myself from this, and I apologize.
Okay. I do too.
I will come back to you for the next item.
And actually, Chair Miller, I see that it says Arkelian was absent as well. Board Member Arkelian, can you confirm if you have watched the tape from the last meeting and are familiar with the plans?
Yes, I'm confirming I reviewed the previous recording and public comments as well.
Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Klein, would you like to read the minutes into the record, please?
Sure. The motion was return to full board for concept review with the following comments. 1, the board finds the design and style of the project is appropriate with the existing neighborhood. 2, the applicant shall study the possibility of lowering the plate heights. 3, the applicant shall study the relationship of garage structure compared to the other part of the front elevation. 4, the board cannot support a translucent garage door. 5, the board supports a row of windows on the upper part of garage door. 6, the applicant shall provide more clarity in terms of the fence height and how it relates to the adjacent neighbors. The motion was made by Miller, seconded by Motisha.
All right, thank you. Do we have a representative, Mr. Sharkey and Mr. Radke? Welcome. If you want to just go through and how you specifically address those specific items, that'd be great.
Thank you, Chair Miller. Yes, we have responded to all the items, and I think we've addressed them. We're hoping to get your good comments. Adam will walk you through specifically those responses. Thank you again.
Sure. We can maybe just look briefly at page 12, A2.1, the plan, because in addition, it wasn't in the minutes, but the comments also about plate height related also to the area. The FAR previously was at 96%. And there were comments about desire of studying the floor plan to see if there was any possibility of savings there. So we we've worked hard with the owners and are trying to develop a really ideal living situation and great asset for the neighborhood. In doing so, we sort of looked at every square inch and were able to achieve some savings. We come back at 91% FAR, so a substantial reduction in the overall FAR from 96 down to 91. Let's go to sheet 15, which is a 3.1. I think that's probably the easiest to look at. We've lowered, in essence, all the plate heights, but we've done so trying to be very careful. We got a lot of really good comments and feedback from the entire board about the positive elements of the design and the neighborhood compatibility and the overall aesthetic. So we wanted to be sensitive and thoughtful in how we did this. In essence, this is, aside from this very small second-story element to access the roof deck, it's in essence a varied massing one-story house. So we've been trying to be careful and thoughtful of how we did that. If we look at the drawing 2, which is the front elevation of the house, there's the kind of varied massing shown there, and we can talk about the lowered plate heights there. The main entry, living, dining, kitchen volume of the house, and we can look, there's another place we'll look as well to just see the overall massing, but that roof and plate height was lowered a full foot and brought down that height of that piece. If we look at drawing 1 that's below it, which is the back of the house, so the lower volume of the bedrooms and smaller spaces in the house wrap around the side and back. That was it. We've lowered that plate height 3 inches, down from 9 feet to 8'9". If we look at the second story element of where this roof deck is, which is over the garage, we lowered the height of that and therefore the height in the garage 6 inches. And then we lowered the overall, that second story, small second story element, that's the landing and small second story room to access that. We've lowered its plate height 6 inches as well, which achieves an overall in the second story volume, bringing the roof line down a full foot. Related to comments we'll get to later, which was the other one about studying the front elevation, we changed the height of the parapet wall that's that front of the roof deck in essence and the top portion of the garage, face of the garage. And that we brought that parapet down an extra foot as well. So not only were we lowering the plate heights, but we lowered some of the parapet walls to reduce that sort of and make harmonious that front elevation. We'll talk about that in a minute. Those are the plate height elements. So that's item 2. If we look at number 3, that's the sort of relationship of the garage compared with the other parts. So there's a few items related to the garage. One was the comment 4. So we took the board's comments to heart. The owners are okay with, as recommended by the board, going with a single line of translucent windows as the upper portion of the garage doors, but otherwise having that be a solid garage door face below. We lined up and added detail to the garage and roof deck detailing. So there's a metal parapet top which matches in alignment and styling to the clear above the main entry. There's this sort of eyebrow roof element below the pitched roof, and we aligned that up with the garage and then had detailing of the railing on this lowered parapet wall for the upper roof deck to work with the overall style and detailing of the western portion of the house. Let's see, fence heights. I think comment 5, clarity in terms of fence heights and how it relates to the neighbors. So we studied that pretty carefully. We talked before about that, and from the survey, I think we looked at before, there are existing fences and walls that are on the adjacent properties on all sides, and those are on the neighbor's property. So those will be all remaining. I think we might want to go to A1.1. If we go to that, maybe that's most easily just to understand the proposed fence heights, which is trying to keep it very simple and what the project is proposing. So there were good, yeah, if we zoom in maybe a little bit, there were good comments before about the desire by some board members to keep the view and openness of the front of the house to Shoreline Park. So we've eliminated any front yard fence that goes along the Shoreline Drive sidewalk. So it's just an open landscape driveway and entry. In the front area on the sides, corresponding to, in essence, fencing that exists on the neighbor's fencing, we'd have a low 3-foot high fence till it gets to the sides of the house. And then from the sides of the house through the backyard area on all 3 sides, we would be proposing a standard 8-foot fence height. If we look at A3.4, there's a couple details where we looked at the northerly property and the westerly property, just in terms of what's existing and trying to make sure those existing elements sort of stay as is for the neighbors while we're able to do new. So if we look at detail 5, that's the fence line. So the fence we're proposing would, everywhere in front of the fence in the project area would have landscaping at its base so that vines and other low shrubs would be able to grow up in front of that fencing. And then on the certain portions of wall on the north wall, we'll see we'd actually have a little planter area. So we would have raise up from the pool deck edge some of that planting so it wouldn't be sort of spilling into walkway zones, but would be up in the this sort of planter edge. But the westerly neighbor has existing walls that's about 5.5 feet high for the majority of that backyard area. And then there's actually existing neighbor fencing that extends and continues upward. That would all stay. That's not part of our project. That's the neighbors. We would simply be rebuilding and creating an 8-foot fence that would, in essence, be lower than the neighbors in that area to just match current zoning standards for our fencing. If we look at detail 6, just to the side, the northerly property, the grade jumps somewhat substantially, a few feet, and then it terraces within the property itself. So the neighbor's backyard, in essence, the majority of it is about 4 feet higher than the backyard in this project. So it already, by having, it has a modest fence and wall height that exists on the property now that's theirs. We'd be in essence matching that, but which would be an 8-foot fence from our side of it, just because we're so much lower. So it would be substantially lower from the neighbor's view, but would be, maxing out the sort of standard. This whole project has no modifications requested and just sort of trying to follow all the rules. Those are the fence comments. And I think that's all of the items that we were asked to address. Just a quick commentary. The planner had called just wanting to check our landscape plan. We had positive comments on that before. There was a question where definitely the desired intent in the landscaping is to remain low, not creating large shade trees. Two of the items are listed as a tree, even though I believe they can be shrub or tree height. But I had emailed Pilar and just said I would mention that we can remove those if there's any concern that items are going to grow into large trees. That's definitely not desired by the owner in terms of having large tree elements on. This site has great views, and outward and inward is important. We're available for any questions, but appreciate the board's time.
All right, thank you very much. Board member, or Ms. Plummer, did we get any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Miller. So if you'd like to make public comment on this particular project, please use the instructions on the screen. There is a raise your hand icon that when you click it will notify us that you would like to speak on this item. And I'll just give it a moment. I know we received some written correspondence. So Ms. Fennessy, can you acknowledge that while we wait to see if there's any speakers for this project?
Thank you. We did receive 2 public comment letters from John and Lisa Miller and Dawn McGrew, and that was distributed to the board prior to this meeting. And at this time, I do not see any hand. Oh, I see one hand raised.
One hand just came up.
And I will call on Jesse Lieber. And you have 2 minutes to speak.
Unmute. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Hi, this is Francine. I'm sitting with Jesse Lieber. And So we greatly appreciate that they have addressed our concerns about the trees in the revised plans. In the previous the sketches, there were no trees and now there are. And I just heard the architect say that they would consider the shrubs would be of a considerable height. We were told that they would be having crepe myrtles and marina arbutus. And we happen to know that they can go anywhere from 25 to 50 feet high, which would considerably block our view.
Sure.
It would completely block our view. So what it's doing for us, and trying to be clear, is that it would cut out all of our view, our sunlight, and the economic value of our property, and that and it's mostly the view. To tell you the truth, it's what we've had. We've lived here for over 20 years, 25 years, and there's never been a tree in that space. We've had the cooperation of the other people who lived there before. Is there anything else you want to say? We really, really appreciate what has been done here today, and we hope that they can be considerate with our view. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, and if there's any other speakers that would like to raise their hand, you do have the opportunity to do so. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. At this time, I still do not see any other hands raised. So I guess we can turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, for the questions portion of the project.
Okay, so Ms. Kalas had to recuse herself, so I'll go to Board Member Arakalian. Do you have any questions, please?
No questions.
All right, thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any questions, please?
Yeah, I guess I would just pick up on the question from the Levers and ask about the myrtle and whether it would grow to 50 feet high. And there was another plant, I didn't catch which one it was, that was also potentially a high growth plant. I wonder if you can respond to that.
Yes, thanks, Board Member Brentlinger. We did a little checking ourselves just because this was actually in the planting plan from our initial. This isn't a new item in terms of the plant palette. Didn't change other than taking out in the city completeness review. One was seen as a potentially one of the grasses is a higher water grass. So from our initial to our revised submittal, we had taken that out. We weren't aware that those would be high, and in checking, and I believe it's in checking with the landscape designer, the thought is that those can be trained to be low, but I think for just clarity that and simplicity, there's a robust plant palette of shrubs and perennials and ground covers. So I think the owners are fine removing those two that are listed as trees, which again, if left unchecked, can get taller. It's the crepe myrtle as well as the arbutus, the marine arbutus. So we'd be fine in moving ahead with just removing those from the proposed palette, just to put to rest any unclarity.
That's great. That's great. That was actually my only question, but thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
Could you just go to the landscape really quick plan and point out the location of those plants?
Sure, the L1.0, which I believe sheet 8 is the landscape plan. The low shrubs are listed in part of the decorative garden, which is the sort of sides and back area, which again, there's a variety. If we zoom in on the palette a little bit, you can see on the right, and then that's the decorative garden. There's a small meadow of sort of grasses that are out in the front to keep good visibility an openness at the front of the house. And then there's a variety of plant palettes. So these shrubs had then these trees in the T column that can be sort of large shrubs or trees. And those are the two we're talking about. So they, at the point of the landscape development, this time we weren't proposing an exact location for each shrub. So we'll just, when we come back for preliminary and final, be having a more definitive plan of which plant is where. And I think we have plenty to work with without those two items.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any questions, please? Where'd he go? Joe? Oh, Joe.
I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm here. Yes. Yes.
There you are. Okay.
Hold away for a second. I would like, yes, I would like, if possible, to see the previous elevation that we looked at last time next to the, or either next to or right to, so I compare the changes in the elevations and the plate heights. Is that possible?
If that's a question for me, I don't know that it is. We have unless I don't know if Pilar can bring up the previous planning set.
We do have
okay.
the
Oh,
old
great.
set
Perfect.
available.
Perfect.
Mhm.
There it is. So you can see.
Yeah.
One. Let me see. Now pull up the new one. That's the previous one.
Oh, yeah.
Now, is that the new? Okay, go back to the previous. Go back if possible. Okay, that's previous. Now go to the present. Oh yeah. Okay. No, it's very. It follows our guidelines, and I appreciate what you did. Yes, I like it. Board likes it. Sorry, not supposed to like. Supposed to say it follows our guidelines. It does. Thank you.
All right. So, yeah, Joe, kind of, you did it in a very interesting way, but you kind of answered my question. So I'm going to move on to comments. Board Member Arakalian, do you have any comments, please?
I do. I'm on sheet A3.1, view 2. And similar to what I noted earlier, this is my first time. This is my first meeting providing comments. I have reviewed past the past meeting in public comments. So I'm looking at the glass wall at the front, and I believe I did a quick measurement from the scale. I believe it's roughly around at least 11 feet by 8 feet. And, you know, I'm seeing that it's set quite forward. It's quite prominent from street view. I'm curious if that, would like to see if that amount of glazing along that elevation should be either reduced, or if there should be more of a prominent separation between each glazing piece. It just feels quite large, and it's just quite prominent from street view. Curious to hear input from other board members on that. Thank you.
All right, Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
My only comment is I think that the architects did a good job responding to the requests regarding scale and the rework on the garage facing, and that I support the project.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
I agree. I think the project fits aesthetically within the neighborhood well, and all the comments were answered very well. And I think it's ready for project design approval at the next meeting. And
all right, thank you. There was a pic. You did a panorama of all the different houses next to each other. Do you know what page sheet that was? It's a really good illustration.
Sorry, I was on mute, Chair Miller. It's area 3.3, 2 elevation sheets later. It's the top sheet is the streetscape elevation.
Okay, yeah, if you could highlight that.
Yeah, if we just zoom in on the number sheet 2 or drawing 2, which is the top that shows it in context with the neighboring structure.
So this is really helpful, and I think it might help Board Member Arakalian's concern about the glass windows.
A lot of it.
Yeah, I think it really, you did a good job in blending in with the neighborhood. So I think yeah. And I kind of see what Board Member Arakalian was saying about those windows being a little too much, but I leave that to for me, I would leave it to the discretion of the architect. I don't think that's a major issue in terms of compatibility with the overall neighborhood. I think what you've done is a great job. It's amazing how you just tweaked the top of the garage and now it like blends in with the rest of the house. It's like a really great balance. So I think the current configuration I could definitely support. So those are my comments. And are you here for what are you here for?
Chair Miller, we have to go to Planning Commission because we're in the coastal zone. So Pilar, you can describe it probably better, but I think we need positive comments to go get our Planning Commission approval and then come back to your board for prelim final.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, that's correct. So staff is looking for a motion continuing the project indefinitely to the Planning Commission with any comments regarding supportability related to the design and whether or not you'd like it to return to the full board following Planning Commission. Thank you.
Okay. All right, would someone like to entertain a motion?
I can try.
Good for you.
So I would like to make a motion for the project to return to the full board following Planning Commission with comments from the board being that the proposed project is compatible with the neighborhood and is aesthetically appropriate.
So we're okay. Do I have a second?
A second.
I think Joe beat you, David.
Fair enough.
Okay, can I have a roll call, please? Before we have a roll call, stop. Board Member Klein, are you satisfied with the landscaping? I just have to. Okay, so there was a lot of talk about trees and myrtle woods and everything. So, and I think Mr. Sharkey addressed that as well, correct?
Yep, I think we got clear direction from your comments.
All right, great. Can I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll go ahead and start the roll call vote. Board Member Arakalian.
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger.
Yes.
Board Member Klein.
Yes.
Board Member Motisha.
Yes.
And Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And Chair Miller, I have one question maybe for our planner, Pilar. Pilar, you'd mentioned that because this met many of the exemption criteria for story poles because of its, in essence, other than that small element, a single story house, that I didn't know if you wanted the actual SFDB to comment on that, because in terms of then not needing to story pole the entire project for PC or not.
That's correct. So the story pole exemption criteria, it's staff can apply that exemption or the board can. I think, with the feedback from the board, unless the board feels it's really necessary to require story poles, I think staff has enough information to waive that requirement. The criteria is that, and I can actually pull it up really quick so we have it in front for the record. So just bear with me for a moment.
And I don't want to take the board's time. Pilar, if you have what you need, that's fine. I just know when you and I were talking earlier, it was an open question whether that was something that.
Well, if I could,
Yes, so I'm just going to read for the board's edification the exemption criteria. So the structures are consistent in terms of size, bulk, and scale, which I believe the board commented on. The structures are the same height or consistent with existing buildings in the neighborhood. The structures will not involve blockage of important public scenic views. That's the general criteria.
yeah, so I think you've met those criteria. I don't sense you need story poles. I don't think, unless anyone else, I don't think anyone else on the board does either, based on the vote. So
Great,
did we have a
thank you.
roll?
Thanks
Yeah.
for clearing that up. I
Did we have a roll call yet?
think you already voted, aren't we?
Yep,
Yep. We done? Yep.
Okay.
We did.
Yeah, get out of here.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks as
everyone's
always
time.
for your service. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, that one's not happening. That one's postponed, isn't that correct?
Yes, that is the case, Chair Miller. However, can you just note, I know it was explained at the beginning of the meeting, but can you just note that this item is postponed to March 14th, 2022?
Okay, I'd like to put on the record that 1460 Seymour Linda Road, project design approval and final approval was postponed for March 14th at our next board meeting on that date.
Thank you.
Okay, 310 Mitchell Terrena Street. This is project design, requesting project design approval and final approval. Proposal to construct a new 738 square foot second story, 127 square foot first floor addition, and 160 square foot basement to an existing 1,021 square foot single unit residence. Project includes conversion of 230 square feet of existing space within the residence to accommodate a new junior accessory dwelling unit. The proposed total of 1,886 square feet on a 3,000 square foot lot is 86% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. Project design approval and final approval are requested. Neighborhood preservation findings are required. So from this, I take it their project design approval and final, and this is the first time they presented it to us.
That is correct, Chair Miller, and Joe Angelitis is the architect for the project, so I'll turn it over to him for the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Chair Miller, Single Family Design Board. My name is Joe Angelitis. I'm the architect with Angelitis Mixon Architects. I do have the owners available for questions, Kyle and Emily Kello. But before we begin, I wanted to give you some background on the owners, just so you can get some relative feedback on where they're coming from. So Emily is a former realtor and fourth generation Santa Barbaran who grew up one block away at 1515 Santa Barbara Street. Her father, Danny Ordaz, was a local plumber and electrician for many years. She has strong roots in the neighborhood and helps with her husband's company part-time while keeping her eye on their active toddler. Kyle grew up along the Oregon coast, moved to Washington at a young age, and returned to Portland to start his construction business, Kello Construction. He met Emily in Portland, and after a few years, they decided to relocate to Santa Barbara in 2019. His company has a heavy emphasis on historic preservation and works on homes on the Lower East Side and Laguna neighborhoods. Can you go to the photos on page 8, please? There's no photos in this set. It's a separate PDF file. Kyle and Emily bought their home in 2019 and currently reside at the property with their 21-month-old son. The home was previously set up as 2 rental units, but the smaller unit now serves as their son's bedroom. The existing 1,021 square foot house is sandwiched between 2-story apartment buildings on either side and sits on a tiny 3,000 square foot lot. Can you go to page 7 on the drawings? The Kellos plan on growing their family and need a bigger home. Given the small lot size, the only option is to build up. Most of the original footprint will remain with the exception of minor additions in the front and the back to fit the 2 bedrooms they need on the upper floor. An outdoor deck is proposed above the junior ADU to create more open space options on their small lot. The deck will face a large stand of bamboo that currently shields the view from the looming apartment building next door. You go to page 10. Both Kyle and Emily appreciate the local vernacular of craftsman style cottages in their neighborhood and have looked at that for inspiration. The house will be clad with board and bat siding on the lower floor and shingle siding on the upper floor with decorative trim around the doors and windows. The colors are borrowed from the many inspiring palettes they've encountered on their neighborhood walks. So I'll quickly walk you through the photos first. If you go back to the photos of page 1. This is the existing house. It's a 1-story little cottage. Next photo is showing the large 2-story apartment to the east. Next page. This is the driveway. It's a shared driveway between the apartment to the west and their house. Across the street is a 2-story Victorian with parking garage facing the street. Across the street, a little to the east, are 1-story cottages. And across the street to the west, at the corner, is another 2-story apartment. These are photos of the existing other sides of the building you can't see from the street. So this is the west side. That's the back with the entrance to the apartment that was part of the original house. Another photo of the backyard. There's a little porch at the back, as you can see, very small lot. And this is just the east side of the house. Again, east side looking towards the north. Street view with the apartments on either side. Street view looking towards the west at the corner of Garden with the 2-story apartment. Continue. Street view looking towards the east of the 2-story apartment and next door, and then a 3-story apartment further down. I think that's the last one, correct? Or is there one more? No, that's it. So we go to the plans. Let's go to the first page, or I think it's the 4th page. Next page. Here's a site plan. So to the left is the existing site plan. Not much is changing with the footprint other than there's a small addition towards the front and the porch extension on the right. A little addition on the back where the kitchen is currently. You can see the open space requirements shown on the backyard area, the existing ribbon driveway, the existing fencing along the front will remain. All the landscaping you see there is to remain. There's no landscaping proposed for this project. One thing I did want to mention is the FAR calculator was provided, and it made it sound like we had to comply, but the FAR is just is being provided as a guide. It is not required since we're in an RM zone. It's not a residential zone, it's a multifamily zone. Site plan also shows the entrance to the junior ADU on the west side. Next sheet. This is the existing layout of the house. It's a 2-bedroom house that was set up as 2 apartments previously before they moved in. And their son is kept in the other bedroom, and then they have their master or their bedroom towards the east, small kitchen, laundry room, and a single bathroom. Next sheet. On the first floor, you can see the shaded areas in the front and the back that are being added. The front bedroom will be introduced at the front there, and then the other bedroom is going to be converted back to a rental unit, but legalized as a junior ADU. And then there's a small addition towards the south to expand the kitchen and allow room for the stair to get up to the second floor. On the second floor is just 2 simple bedrooms with 2 more bathrooms. And then there's a small basement being proposed. It's a small lot size. There's not a lot of room for equipment. So that's being utilized below the kitchen area and accessed from the backyard. Next sheet. Roof plan. Current slope is, I think, a 5 and 12 for the single story structure. We're increasing that to 10 and 12 for the new building. Footprint is virtually the same. It's just being raised a floor. Next slide. Here are the existing elevations. Wood siding on the perimeter with the little board and bat where the apartment is, and some brick cladding down below. There's a brick masonry fireplace, windows with shutters, and asphalt roof. Next slide. This is the proposed addition with the second floor. New porch, a little extension for the bedroom and the bedrooms upstairs and downstairs. Shingle roof. Upper floor has shingle siding, lower floor has board and bat siding. I think we're going with fiberglass windows painted. They're all single hung windows. Extension of the chimney to match the existing brick. You can see the deck on the north or the southwest side that will be located above the existing junior ADU. Wood trim throughout, a little belly banded trim between the 2 sidings being proposed, and then a back porch entry over near where the kitchen is. Next slide. These are the proposed colors. Body color is the brown with a white trim color and a red window color, a black roof, simple Craftsman type hardware and light fixtures. Next slide. Some basic sections through the building showing the deck configuration over the living space and the roof volume above. Next slide. Some of the detailing proposed for the windows and doors. Next. And then here's your standard roof details for the asphalt roof and rafters. And that is it. That concludes my presentation. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Plummer, did we get any public comment?
Thank you, Chair Miller. So if you'd like to speak on this item, please follow the instructions on the screen. There is a raise your hand icon that when you press it, it'll notify us that you'd like to speak. And Chair Miller, I do not see any attendees currently, so I think I'll just turn it over to Ms. Fennessy. Did we receive any written correspondence on this item?
Thank you. We did not receive any written correspondence for this item, and there's still no attendees attending the meeting, so I'll hand it back to the board.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for questions. Vice Chair Kalas, do you have any questions, please?
The project description notes something about the addition of a basement, or it reads as though it does. And I know that's kind of not in our purview, but I'm just trying to understand how that relates to what's going on here, and or if there's any access into the basement from the exterior, or if that is an existing basement and it's just the way the project description is reading.
No, it's a new basement, and it's shown on the floor plan sheet.
Could we take a look at that quickly, please? Staff, I think that was sheet 5, maybe, if I remember right.
think it's sheet 7.
Okay.
So you can see the basement below with the stairs leading to it. It's a very small basement.
So those are
Another FAU and water heater and trash.
accessed internally?
No, access externally.
It didn't show that on the elevations. It didn't show those doors, that door.
Yeah, the door is below. So
it's down below.
Oh,
Can we see the site plan then? Oh, I see where it is. It's up here. It's sort of north on the page, Mr. Androlitis, is that right?
yes, north on the page, right next to the porch, there's stairs leading down to the
It's
landing.
down below the kitchen. Okay.
You don't see it because there's a wall, there's a guardrail on that side of the stair. So it hides the top of the door when you're looking at the east elevation,
Okay,
but it's below grade, essentially, the door.
sure. Okay. And then relative to the height of the apartment building that is to the left as you're standing at the street looking at the proposed residence, do you have a sense of where your ridge line would be relative to that apartment complex? Taller than, shorter than, roughly the same as?
Roughly the same size as the apartment next door.
Okay, and I did see that the solar ordinance was met. It looked like you had that noted on the elevations.
Correct.
And there is no parking on site existing nor proposed, is that correct?
There's parking in the driveway, but there's no parking and that's grandfathered into the lot based on the original house design. But there is one parking space in the driveway.
On the Ribbon Drive?
Correct.
Okay. Those are the only immediate questions I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Arakalian, do you have any questions?
Just one, just for the parking, the uncovered parking space, has there been any exploration of alternate parking means, or just because of the lot limitations that's all you can come up with?
Yeah, we'd have to substantially redesign the house and reduce it considerably to allow any parking, a parking garage on site. It's a 3,000 square foot lot, and there's just no feasible way of making that happen and still have a livable unit on the site.
Okay. That's all I have for now. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any questions, please?
I do. It has to do with the color board. Could we take a look at that for a second? Great. And if you could explode that. Mr. Androlitis, did I get that close to right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. I'm looking at the color board here and then back and forth with your elevations, and I'm focused on the body color of the Benjamin Moore bark for the whole body. And could we now go back to sheet A202 that shows the elevations? There. And my question really has to do with using that single body color on what you've got here, which is a really interesting combination of siding materials between the board and batten, the shingles and the belly band and the brick. And it just, I'm just wondering if that is a fixed component of your plan to make it all one color, or whether you considered highlighting some of the different siding materials with a different color.
I'd be open to different colors. I'd have to review it with my client.
Sure.
I think that's a good suggestion, and we can discuss it with them and see what they think.
Okay, great. And you know, that is my only question. Thank you.
Sorry, Board Member Klein, do you have any questions, please?
No questions, just comments.
All right, Board Member Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
Yes. Style of the house. Oh, you raised that pitch of that roof substantially, and I see. I'm looking at the upper left north elevation. You do just hit the what is it called? The line of shadow. I would like to see, and I'm looking at your colors. I've seen your color board, and they're very strong colors. And I think our guidelines could go along with those colors if we saw some elevations with those colors on it. You're leaving it up to us to put those colors on this page right here. And I'm having a hard time doing that. I'm having a hard time putting that field bark color with the windows and I can imagine the roof, but that field bark with all the trim in the white or the off-white. And I would like to see the elevations with some colors on them at your next presentation to us. Other than that, I own several really small lots in town, and I know what it is to be challenged to do something to it. And this is a challenge, and succeeded, yes, as far as our guidelines go. But some elevations with some color would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Question, do you have a backyard for this house?
No.
Yeah, there's a small backyard.
Okay, and it's going to be fenced because these people have children, right?
Yeah, everything's fenced. I mean, there's walls all around the lot.
Okay, you showed the pictures. It's just suddenly. That's my only question, so I'm going to go back to the board for comments. Vice Chair Kalas, do you have any comments, please?
I do. Generally speaking, I think this is a bold move. This is something different than we typically see, but it makes a lot of sense for urban living in town, and I'm actually encouraged by this. When I'm looking at the elevations, I'm a little bit concerned about the width of the windows on the lower level that flank the chimney. They seem like seems like they could be brought in just slightly, and that it would help sort of the verticality of that two-story element there with the chimney. But I can appreciate the desire for as much light as possible.
Sorry, but those are existing windows.
Okay, thank you. I was a little bit concerned about the eclectic nature of some of the windows when I first started looking at this, but I actually think it works. It kind of makes this feel like a house that grew up over time. And so that's kind of grown on me the more that I've looked at these. I do agree with the other board members that some color studies would be beneficial. I think the project is compatible with the original underlying nature of the neighborhood, that not being the apartment complexes, but rather the bungalows and small cottages in the neighborhood. And the increased pitch does not bother me. I actually think it helps the project. So I'm in favor of the project, but I would like to see more color studies done potentially on consent if the board were amenable to that. Those are my only comments.
All right, thank you. Board Member Arkalian, do you have any comments, please?
I do. appreciate the applicant's detailed presentation. I believe the placement of the second floor fenestrations along the east and west elevations here on 8202 show respect to the neighbors. Believe this is a challenging project. There's large multifamily buildings surrounding, and I believe the applicant has creatively demonstrated how to make a single family residence with ADU aesthetically appropriate in this part of town. I would restudy I would like to get input from other board members about maybe restudying the siding towards maybe a single siding materials, just board and batten only, or the shake only. And I believe much study needs to be made to the landscaping. I would like to see more planting details on what's being proposed. There's a lot of big buildings in this area, and I believe appropriate landscaping and careful thought needs to be made for making this house, creating definition for this house. That's all the comments for now. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Board Member Brentlinger, do you have any comments, please?
Yeah, I do. I guess, first of all, I see the Oregon in this house. I was involved in a lot of home building in around Portland. So I see a lot of that in this house. And I think it will be very beneficial to the neighborhood to have this here in this location. I've driven the street and seen what else is there. I think this is an enhancement to the neighborhood. And I do appreciate, I think the materials are appropriate to the architectural style. So I'm in favor of that. And then finally, yes, I would appreciate some renderings in color of some color options your client could live with. And those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Board Member Klein, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I also think the craftsman style fits well within the neighborhood and fits our neighborhood compatibility guidelines. I think the infill of it's a great location for this. The size, bulk, and scale works very well, and it's an improvement to the neighborhood with large apartments next door. I think this is a really nice addition to the neighborhood. I think the variation in siding is nice, and I think it should be kept this way. And as far as the landscape, I understand it's just existing to remain, and I'm okay with that. I understand there's a budget, and no significant trees are being removed. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Board Member Motisha, do you have any comments, please?
Yes, I think I agree with everything that everybody else has said, but I really would like some renderings with some color on them. And other than that, I support this project.
All right, thank you. I keep looking at this story. And I loved what Board Member Klas said. It's a bold move. I totally agree with her. It's like, so often you'd see these kind of homes that were built in 1910, 1911, and then they're surrounded by big apartments, and now you're kind of reversing it. And I think that's so cool. So yeah, I love, it's an incredibly charming house. It's got an eclectic flavor to it. The only question I have, and I forgot to ask you, the banding up underneath the gable, is there a transition up there from the different size shingles, or is that all the same?
That's all the same. The rendering probably just the CAD balance those
yeah, it looks like
patterns correctly.
A less dense shingle up there, because traditionally when you have a transition similar to what you have on the east elevation, you put a horizontal band across to distinguish the differences, but otherwise, no. Yeah, I totally think this is a great project. I ditto what everyone else said on the board. But that being said, they're here for final design Would someone like to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll make a motion for project design approval to come back to consent to review the final colors. And I'd like to make the following findings. That the project is consistent with the scenic character of the city and neighborhood, is compatible in size, bulk, and scale. Quality architectural materials are being used. No significant trees are being impacted. The public health, safety, and welfare are appropriately protected. The good neighbor guidelines regarding privacy, landscaping, noise, and lighting are followed, and no public views are impacted.
hi, okay, could I have a second, please?
Second.
All right, may I have a roll call, please?
Thank you. I'll start the roll call vote. Board Member R. Kellyan,
Yes.
Board Member Brentlinger,
Yes.
Board Member Klein,
Yes.
Board Member Motisha,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kloss,
Yes.
and Chair Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And there's a 10-day appeal process for this project.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our board meeting for tonight and good night to everyone. Thank you.